Okay, I just started the recording. Alright. Hey everyone, this is Zach from the International Debate League. I'm going to be moderating this debate today. We're doing another debate, keeping at it, So the topic for today is the welfare state. We're going to be having a debate about are you pro or are you anti welfare state? More than that, get into the weeds a little bit, like different questions surrounding the welfare state. So I'll just ask the debaters real quick. Who wants to go first?
I think Jonas wanted to go first.
Yes, I actually told him privately.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So the first subtopic we're gonna do is wait, I'm looking for it here in the chat. Okay. Do we Oh, no, not that one. Is a welfare state sustainable in the long run?
Okay. So I actually do not think that a welfare state is actually sustainable in the long run, because a welfare state, first of all, so if you are talking about universal universal healthcare, if you have three aspects to consider. The first one is quality, second one is universality, and the third one would be affordability. You can only simultaneously have two of those three. A prime example would be that Obamacare only ensured quality and it only ensured affordability and universality. And why it didn't actually quite made that quality aspect to be fulfilled is because universal Medicare causes a massive indebtment for the country, and to atone that, the country would actually either actually limit the prices, regulate the prices, which may cause the doctors to immigrate. If the doctors immigrate, then it would cause a real big problem, which we actually have here in Germany. I would like to take an example of Germany because that's the country that I'm living here in, and I can take examples of that the best. That is, if you, for instance, have an optic problem, you have to go to and you make an appointment. You actually only first get to see the doctor 6 months later, and by that your eyes have probably deteriorated a lot. And I can say that by my own experience. And after we have talked about regulation causing immigration of doctors, we should also talk about that it is just a massive burden on the government, because it may be affordable to you, it may not be affordable to the government. And actually, people or institutions estimate in America that if you had universal healthcare, it would actually account for 60% of the entirety of the federal expenditure if taxes are not increased. In America, you have the blessing of having low tax, when in countries, these social welfare states, which actually Bernie Sanders would like to take example of, I'll come to him later. They actually have 60% of taxes. Denmark, Germany, middle income class, 40% taxes, just to keep this welfare state running. So that is and if you calculate all of these together, if you have universal healthcare, it's neither really affordable because of the taxes that would have to be hiked. The quality would actually also decrease. It would also deteriorate massively if you have an influx of illegal immigrants here, and they have a better tendency of leaching, which we'll also come to that later. And those are the and henceforth, if you have a universal healthcare, these other two aspects, affordability and quality, actually go away. And I just mentioned Bernie Sanders. I want to come to him. He actually says that universal Medicare is an inherent right, and he cites Denmark and Germany and France, etc. But if you think that it is an inherent right and you want to get it for low cost, and as I said, it would be a massive burden to the country that has henceforth he actually made here a false assumption, and that's why I don't think that universal healthcare should actually be an inherent right to the people, especially people that do not have citizenship. How much time did that take?
You just went for 4 minutes. Do you wanna? You don't have to take up the whole 5 minutes if you don't want to.
And I want to now briefly talk about Social Security. Social Security actually should only be accessible to people that have citizenship, and I also really like the Social Security system of America. Prerequisites would be you have to have impairments and diagnosed and shown to the Social Security Center, and you actually have to have citizenship in European countries, because you have leftist governments that think in concepts and notions such as global citizenship, that world countries can immigrate into our country and leech because of their prior experience and trauma in those countries. That's actually not a really good notion. It is a massive burden to the country. And in Germany, I just want to cite an example. The expenditures.
Sorry, but your time is up. Your time is up, Jonas. Sorry about
can I
that.
finish my sentence?
Yeah. Finish your last sentence. Okay.
Yeah. The expenditures of Germany on its Bürgergeld, as we call it, or civil welfare, actually was at 47.6 billion euros for a country the size of a little bit bigger of New Jersey, wherein many illegal immigrants are leeching. So henceforth, it is neither sustainable nor actually also affordable to the sovereign. Thank you.
Okay, Rikus, your turn.
All right. I am obviously welfare, and I'd like to address some of the points Jonas made earlier. You were talking a lot about illegal immigrants, and we can all agree that this can be a big problem. But I think that illegal immigration is an entirely separate problem from social welfare of the people and being a welfare state. Of course, these immigrants can be a burden to a welfare state, but at the moment we are more discussing a welfare state in general, not just this immigration. And therefore I think if we manage to have a competent migration policy, social welfare state can very well be sustained in the long run. Further, you were mentioning how due to these regulations, doctors migrate and there's a lack of medical professionals. And while it is true that many countries have a lack of these medical professionals, that is not the only reason for that is the regulations and the migration of doctors. If we look at Germany, for example, we have a numerus clausus. I don't know whether that's a common term. Basically means that you need a certain grade to be able to study a certain field of science or a certain field in university. From medicine, to study medicine, you need to have at least like a high school degree of an A+ thingy. And that is the reason many people cannot study medicine, and we have a lack of doctors. Because I personally had a friend once, and his sister, she was studying medicine, but because her grades weren't good enough to study that in Germany, she studied it in the Czech Republic. Now she cannot practice in Germany, and therefore we have another doctor, we have less. Instead of blaming the social welfare state, we should blame other factors that have much more of an influence on this. Further, you also said due to universal healthcare, either quality, university, or affordability will deteriorate.
Universality, actually.
Universality, of course. But my question is, what is the point of good quality if the most of the people cannot afford it? Look at the US, for example. There is pretty good medicine in the country, but people have to go to debt because they cannot afford it. there are people that do not go to the hospital even though they need urgent care just because they don't want a lifetime of debt. Therefore, all this quality they cannot make use of. And another point is, I think it is very much sustainable to have a welfare state, because as we see that if somebody is sick, they can just get help financed by the state, for example. Instead of not being able to work, being healthy enables you to be so much more productive. Or if you get laid off, for example, instead of having to scramble for some low-paying job so you can afford your bills, instead you get support by the government to get back on your feet, get a job that suits you, maybe even take some time off to get better training, to get a better job. This allows people to not be deadly afraid of being laid off. This allows people that want to do innovation to just not work for a while, start their own business, start inventing stuff. Like, we all know a lot of, in the international debate league, there are several people that start their own business. How much easier would it be if they didn't have to work a 9 to 5 while starting their business? Because they would get support by the government. Therefore, I very strongly believe that this is another point showing how a welfare state is not only sustainable in the long run, it's almost necessary because it actually helps the growth of the economy. I'd also like, lastly, to state a quote by former British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it says, "Power has only one duty: to secure the social welfare of the people." What does a powerful state do to you? Like, what does it help if, that was the quote, it's over. So what good does a powerful state do if it does not help the citizens, if it does not make them better, make their quality of life better?
Okay, Rikus, that's 5 minutes. You can finish your last thought real quick.
All right, thank you. So we look all around the world, and those countries with a lot of social welfare, they have an overall higher quality of life and happiness for the people.
Okay. So first of all, you actually you actually told me that I was over concentrating on immigrants. I admit my mistake, but immigrants, if they come with large volume into the country, they actually can overburden the Medicare system more than it actually already did. With that said, you also told me something about doctor immigrating. I actually didn't really get your point, but the thing is, with doctors immigrating, if you have universal healthcare, they tend to have no matter how high their qualification is, they actually tend to have less salary, and they immigrating. The sole reason is actually for them to go to another country with their qualifications to have higher salaries, because one person doesn't want to have more money. And you also told me of a prime example of yours, because I know that you have previously been in America. You told me that people, because having an impairment, actually have to spend loads and loads amount of money on that to fix that impairment. And you also cited that it would be better if they had universal healthcare in that instance. But universal healthcare, as said, it if you had universal healthcare and the affordability is there, you have the price deduction, and you have the doctors immigrating, it would actually be so overburdening for the country. You have so long appointments. You have so bad quality that actually it would be better better if you calculate the time and calculate the money that you would still have to eventually spend. It would actually to be better not to have any not to have any universal healthcare. And what I would like to advocate for is to have healthcare for the people that have it that require it the most. Actually, for the low income people who actually cannot afford it at all, should have a access to reduced prices on healthcare for those middle classes. I actually think that
finish up your last thought real quick. That was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So.
And you also okay, and I just go to another point. You actually also mentioned a British Prime Minister. And you also there too said that to make. Well, that's what I actually understood. To make people happy, you have to have healthcare and better welfare or something like that. But the state is to enforce your right and not necessarily. Is to enforce your right, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the pursuit of happiness, you already hear it. You have to. It's actually your own initiative to pursue your purpose in life to make yourself happy. That's just a general philosophy.
Okay, so where do you want to go from here? Do you want to respond to that with 2 minutes and 30 seconds, Rikus?
I would like to respond to that, but I will not need that long, as I would like to move on to the next point.
After that, we definitely need to go to the next subtopic. But yeah, okay, go for it.
Of course. First of all, you said that you didn't quite understand my point about the migration of doctors. What I said was that what we see in many countries right now, that we have a lack of medical personnel. The reason for that is not that it is too cheap or anything. At this very moment, doctors are still one of the most high-paid jobs in Germany. No, the problem with that is, the problem we have is not that, but other reasons. We cannot blame a welfare state for that. In Germany, one of the biggest problems is the high requirements to study medicine in the first place. If 99% of people don't have the grades to study medicine, like that's an estimation, of course, but you know my meaning, then 99% of people cannot study medicine, meaning that only 1% could theoretically, and many of those will maybe not choose it. That is like one example of the problems we have right now, and I think it's not fair to blame the welfare state for that. The other thing you mentioned was with the immigrants, and I agree with you that can definitely have a huge burden on welfare state. But I think if we talk about this, we cannot say, oh, what if we have all of these problems, that problems, because we are talking about it in general. And although I agree that illegal immigrants can be a problem for a welfare state, I think if we manage to have a solution to the illegal immigration, then that is definitely not something we should concern, that would pose a big concern anymore. And
okay.
Lastly,
oh, sorry.
Okay, just one more point. And lastly, the thing you said with the quality, that is, I did not hear you say any kind of sources for the lack of quality, and for me it very much just sounded like a speculation on your part, and I don't know whether that kind of speculation, because I can just simply make another speculation about a different kind of outcome to the topic, and therefore I think just this kind of speculations without any proof or sources is not very helpful in a debate.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next subtopic, which has already been briefly touched on by both debaters, but we will expand on it here. It is, should people be required to have citizenship in a country in order to get welfare from that country?
Should I begin as Jonas started earlier?
Yeah, sure.
So, personally, I don't believe that you need to have citizenship to get the benefit of a welfare state. I don't believe that illegals should get the benefits. Don't get me wrong. But I think if you have the permission to be in a country, if you're a legal resident of the country, there's no reason why you shouldn't also get the welfare of the country. If you're allowed to work in this country, then you're allowed to contribute to this country and this country's success. And if you are contributing to a country's success, how unfair would it be if that country wouldn't be contributing to your own success as well? We see that everyone who pays taxes is helping the country. Therefore, everyone that pays taxes or could pay taxes because they are a legal resident, they should also be helped by the country in case they need it, in case they fall ill, in case they get laid off, or whatever it is. I think these people deserve our welfare just as much as those who have citizenship here, because they are contributing just as much. If somebody immigrates illegally to a country, then I see no reason why they should get the welfare. That's my opinion on that, as they are not only not contributing to the system, but also damaging it. But as long as they are helping us, are legally here, and just make the country better and more successful, I cannot see a single argument that would speak against giving them the welfare as well.
Okay, can I respond?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so this question on whether you should have citizenship to actually get the social welfare of that country, it has a prerequisite of citizenship. The citizenship is within that name of the topic. So henceforth, let's just not first talk about that illegal immigrants have in some welfare states that do not have border enforcement in Europe come in much larger volumes than actually legal immigrants can come in visas and further obtain green cards, etc. I think that you have to first obtain citizenship and know the language of the country and know enough about your country, pass the test, and then get citizenship, and then actually have the civil welfare at your disposal whenever life gets hard. And apart from that, it might be hard for a U.S. citizen to imagine actually illegal immigrants being leeching on this social welfare. But since the migration crisis of the peak of the migration crisis of Europe in 2015, there have been there have been at least for Germany 2.1 million people coming into this country. Of the 80 million citizens, I think that at that time 60 million citizens of Germany, and illegal immigrants, they are not in their own country. They have a lot less morale to actually build stuff here in this country. They don't know the language, and they feel less confident about like, for instance, building skyscrapers, etc. As you had seen, or as you could actually see in the Gulf Arab countries, and this is the xenophobia. I would actually want to say that sometimes when I see Saudi Arabians and people in the UAE building such a successful country, I would actually like to remark that I like Muslims, but people migrating to another country is an entirely different thing. That's why they have much more tendency to leech this country. They don't know, as said, they don't know the language. They have and because the country and because illegal immigrants coming into this country, they are actually less welcomed. It also lowers their morale of learning the language and obtaining citizenship, and in turn getting having access to welfare. And henceforth, I don't actually think that welfare should be universal to every single person that is in the country. It actually should, if we're talking about universal healthcare, it actually should only be accessible to the citizens thereof.
So first of all, I agree with you. Illegal immigrants shouldn't have access to this welfare state. But I think legal ones, people with legal residency here, not only because they have a legal residency here, they are living here, and their future is now tied to the place they are living. Therefore, I do think that they have a great interest in bettering the country that they are living in. And because they have this legal permission to be in the country, to work here, to better the country, to help it, why shouldn't I don't see any of the arguments actually addressing why people that help the country, that support it, that pay taxes here, should not be receiving all the benefits that other people that go here, that live here, that pay taxes here, that help the country do, just because they don't have the citizenship. Again, illegal immigrants that don't have a permission to be here, that's a completely different topic. I agree with you on that. But I think that legal residents should definitely be allowed to have to gain this welfare. Further, I'd like to go to the topic of prevention of exploitation. We see many people that come here, if they do not get the help that others do. For example, by getting support if they're being laid off. If somebody is being laid off, that's a huge problem for them. They need to keep paying bills. But if the government doesn't help you with that, you need to find a job somehow. Therefore, they're drawn way more to black market labor, because oftentimes it's hard to get a job, a legal job, if you don't have citizenship. It's a lot harder than if we do. Therefore, I think we should support these people instead of allowing the black market to take their workforce. Then they will be criminals, and they will be forced into this crime because they did not have the ability to get another job as quickly, and they needed the money, because everyone needs money. Everyone needs to pay bills. They need to pay for groceries, for housing, for all of that. And I think they should be supported by the state in order to achieve or less crime in general, and a better society with and public safety. That's one of my biggest concerns on that topic.
Okay, Jonas, you want to respond?
Okay. Yes. Well, first of all, Rikus, I actually understand the point you're making, but
Do you want to elaborate?
For us Western countries, the problem is it is just a fact that much more illegal immigrants come in much larger volumes than people that come here and as legal immigrants. Legal immigrants come here with a passion. They actually have the passion of not only improving their own lives there, but actually also giving a contribution to the country, and they will certainly not be loath to do the tests and learn enough about the country, actually learn the language of the country to actually obtain citizenship. If we have more devout citizens in the country that actually can get all the blessings of the country, wouldn't that be better than actually already giving them all of those those benefits that we as a country can provide to them?
Can I interrupt you really quick?
Okay, go ahead.
What I already said, people that are here illegally, they of course shouldn't get the welfare. But if they have a permission, I think that permission to stay here legally should be a requirement. And you know as much as I do. For example, in Germany, you need to live here for 5 years before getting the citizenship. What happens if you lose your job in those 5 years, and you need to pay your bills? Then you'll take the first job you can get, and oftentimes that can be a black market job. But if you're supported by the government, you have time to get back to your feet and look for a job that actually is legal, that actually fits you, instead of scrambling for money.
Can I respond?
Yes.
So I understand your point. If a citizen, if a legal immigrant actually loses their job, they might, and they are not subjected to the benefit of the state, they might actually be in really big trouble. I understand, but wouldn't this actually be a better reason for those people to actually find another job more quickly instead of actually being on welfare, because being on welfare you have less pressure to an initiative that you this initiative here would actually be go finding a job. And what I actually my personal opinion, not for all conservatives, my personal opinion is these people even not subjected to citizenship could actually have welfare, but only very limited, because people actually, after being laid off, usually need 3 to 6 months of welfare. I personally think that 4 months of welfare would be adequate for giving them not only being actually being homeless and starve on the streets, but also simultaneously giving them a pressure point to let them have more motivation and urgency to find a job, which is also beneficial for the society overall, and it can actually also increase the impression of the good impression of Native people in this country to legal immigrants. Yes.
Okay, I think it's time to move on to the next topic. Is that fine with you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so the last topic, which actually Jonas was talking about a little bit at the end, so we're leading into it here. How long should one be able to stay on welfare? Who wants to start? Who wants to start?
Actually, Rikus just started previously, so
Yeah.
I think this is my turn right now.
Yeah, definitely.
So as you have heard, generally speaking, a person needs 3 to 6 months to actually get a job after being laid off, which is a perfect timing for them to actually get social welfare. So henceforth, I would actually be advocating for a deadline of 3 to 6 of actually 4 to 6 months. Beyond that, it gives actually the people that are subjected to social welfare no pressure of finding a job whatsoever. Even Native people, they also sometimes leech in these social welfare programs. If you have no pressure whatsoever to actually go and find a job, what happens is this is actually a frequent talking point of the German welfare system, even in elections. You don't have it in America, but here it is a humongous problem. Not only because of the expenditure, it's at 47.6 billion, which is really humongous. According to statistics, there are also not that few of Native people that are leeching from the welfare system, which can be traced back to the fact that you have here no deadline in Germany, and these people not contributing to society whatsoever, but living from the other people working their asses off on a daily basis, to let these people actually live off their labor is not really beneficial in any way, shape, or form. So a deadline would be very crucial here. It's just human psychology that you need pressure to actually do something. There's this so-called pressure curve. If you have almost no pressure, you have the motivation is also relatively low. If the pressure is moderate, you also your motivation would actually be at peak or almost at peak level. If pressure is too high, which can be induced by very low deadlines, the pressure will actually be so high that they get very they actually are not that productive. So henceforth, I think an ideal deadline time period would be 4 to 6 months.
Okay, Rikus, you can respond to that.
All right. While I do agree that 3 to 6 months is a reasonable time span on its own, I think that you should expand on that. Having 3 to 6 months to get back on your feet, maybe find a job, is good. And I think beyond that, you should still be able to receive government help. If we're just talking about being laid off, I would say 3 to 6 months as a basic, and after that, you can continue staying on welfare as long as you are able to prove that you are working towards getting another job. That being whether you're just how's it called, proving that you were at different job interviews and maybe not accepted, or whether that being by taking training courses for more advanced jobs, for maybe even going to college classes to be able to get some other jobs. Just some way of proving that you're working towards getting another job. I think that will, on the one hand, prevent that people will just abuse the system because they have to actually apply for jobs, they have to search for jobs, they have to put development into themselves to eventually get a job. So they will not just stay at home all day watching TV or whatever. And on the other hand, it allows people more freedom in choosing another job. They will not, if they didn't find an adequate job that fits them personally after 6 months or something, because they get rejected somewhere, or there's just not open market for that certain job at the moment. They have time to build towards their own future and improving their lives through that, while still having the government's help.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, I just want to add something here that I think would be good for the debate. You guys are talking about like if you get laid off, but you're kind of assuming that that person is like in good health, like healthy, 100% healthy. So I want to hear what you have to say about if someone is like disabled and they may not really be able to work. Should they be allowed to be on welfare for their entire lives if someone is really badly disabled?
Should I begin on that question?
Yeah.
All right. So personally, I believe yes, because it is just the case that if you, for example, are disabled, you are not only unable to work oftentimes, or at least unable to work in a job that actually pays real money and not just very, very low. But on the other hand, you are a liability, as harsh as it might sound. It is incredibly expensive to get the adequate equipment, whether that be a handicap-free home where you live in, maybe a care facility, maybe you need constant care by professionals, maybe you need anything else, for example. And that is not only a liability to yourself, but also to your family, assuming you have a family that can take care of you. And for those people, we cannot allow for those people to just live in complete poverty. We cannot allow for the families to live in poverty because of an accident, because of bad genes, or whatever it is. Not bad genes, but like a genetic malfunction or something like that. And because this is something so arbitrary that could happen to everyone, I believe that this should especially be helped with. Another point, it's not quite disability, but sickness in general. I also believe that people who are just unable to work, whether it is because they're physically maimed or because they have some mental issues that stop them from working, I also believe that they should have as long as they need to recover on social care, social welfare. My uncle, he is incredibly mentally ill, and he hasn't been able to work for years at this point. But and he lives off welfare right now. He really actually needs it. If he would be laid off from this welfare program, he would have to sell everything he has. His wife would have to work overtime in order to afford all the stuff he needs to actually get better. And for people that cannot work, we cannot force them to work, and we cannot force their family to work harder to afford to care for these people, because it's just not fair to them.
So I agree. I partially agree with you, Rikus, but not entirely, because some liabilities, they can actually be people can actually get possibly, but not entirely, people can actually get out of those liabilities. For instance, mental problems or disabilities. That would apply to the mental problem if the social system can actually help him get a psychiatrist and possibly get out of that situation to let him get back to the working force. For those who have liabilities, if those are temporary, the social state can also if I was statesman, I would allow the social state to also give him the benefit as long as it would be needed to let him to let his for instance, if he has a bone fracturing, to let it repair but under scrutiny, with medical care and social security. But for those who have permanent liabilities, as a conservative, I would also have nothing to. I would also not disagree on you. I would also because this is an exception, I will also give them as and I will actually also give them permanent social security, because as a state of the West, it is your responsibility to enforce their right to live. Everyone has a right to live. So I will actually not disagree on that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the end of the debate. We can continue talking about this off the record, but we've gone for about 47 minutes now. I'll give you guys some opportunities to give some closing statements, actually. So, how about Jonas? You go first. Closing statement.
Okay, so we have here had a rigorous debate on welfare and social security. As a conservative, I would still, except for some exceptions, I will still be advocating for not actually be trying to implement a universal healthcare system, because as a universal healthcare, it has and as I would say, it is actually illustrious, and because you actually, if you want, and because people actually say this, they will with the assumption that they are gonna get good quality healthcare, but it is just economically not feasible, as I have mentioned. But for those who have and talking about the times period of how long people can actually be on welfare, for those who don't have disabilities and are actually able to contribute to the labor force, they should have as determined with the approximate time period that a person needs to find a job. They should actually have a deadline to 4 to 5 months. For those who have permanent liabilities, they are those people who are subjected to permanent social security, and for because it is the responsibility of the state to let these people live. Everyone has a right to live, and for those who have repairable liabilities, the country should actually give its full effort to of Medicare to let them get out of those liabilities.
Okay, Rikus.
All right, I would say we had a very good debate today about the social welfare state or not. Personally, I still believe that we should have a welfare state as a foundation of our modern state in general. We see not only that it is not only about human dignity that is preserved by helping those less fortunate with government funding, but it's also supporting our country and our countries in general. As we see, those who are less fortunate that need help, they get helped, and when they get this adequate help, they will be able to work again and be productive again. So we see that not only is it about the pity we give to those who are being laid off, who are unable to work or whatever? It's not only about that and preserving their dignity. It's also about being an efficient state. If we are a state where those who are less fortunate eventually grow unable to work entirely because they do not get our support, or they're drowning in debt because they have to get their own one, then we are no productive state whatsoever. So I think these are the most important aspects we touched upon today: the sustainability, like economically, and the moral behind it. And while, of course, I don't want to say that Jonas has bad morals or something. I think it's just philosophically a completely different point of view. And I'm glad we had this debate because it highlighted both sides of that.
Okay, everyone, this has been the International Debate League's debate on the welfare state, our first debate on the topic of the welfare state. If you're in the server, make sure you vote on who you thought won. If you're not in the server and you see this video on YouTube, I will provide a link to the server in the description. And yeah, I think we had an amazing debate today. I think that's the best debate we've had so far. And I think it was good that we added a little more structure to it. We kind of tinkered with the structure sort of as we went on through the debate. But I think it turned out very good. And yeah, so everyone have a great day. And this has been the International Debate League. Adios.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.